The Colts dropped a must-win game in Mile High Stadium against Bo Nix and the Broncos, and we're here to talk about it on episode 12 of the Colts Unplugged pod. I am one of your co-hosts, Ati Logan. Joined with me is my other co-host, Pro Fan Logan. How you doing, brother?
I've had better days.
Mm-hmm.
Addy. That's for sure. I'm sure you could understand why.
I am sad. That's like I texted you
Yes,
this morning. I know you started a new job today,
I
guys.
am
Everyone
sad.
that's hearing, I wish him all your well wishes. He started a new job today, and immediately I texted him saying I
Woo.
am sad still. So what a way to start first day of work there. Um, but like let's get right into it, man. I want to start really, we'll talk about what we didn't like, what we liked, what our expectations are. I want to start with just like emotions as Colts fans first and foremost. Like you watched that game, I watched that game. How did you feel, man, going into that and post game?
Yeah, I mean, to put it, I don't know. I guess I'll start from the beginning. So, at the very beginning of the game, I felt on cloud nine. Right, it started exactly how every Colts fan dreamt it would. Anthony Richardson got a couple designed runs, which we highlighted was an absolute must and a key to getting a victory over the Broncos. So we got to see some of that with that amazing running touchdown that he had to start the game. And then he had some great passes as well to Josh Downs. Just an excellent first drive, right? And the defense, they were balling right out the gate, and that obviously, as you know, we found out continued throughout the course of the game. So I was feeling great, man. Like we were pumped in the BSR garage where I was watching with all my friends, and we were excited, man. Especially when the Colts went up 10-0, and then it felt like a Curb Your Enthusiasm moment. If you've ever seen that show, just where like the absolute worst possible thing and most laughable comical thing could happen when Jonathan Taylor dropped that ball. I'm sure we'll really dig into that. But as soon as that happened, it felt like all of the wind just got sucked out of me immediately, and the entire vibe, the entire momentum, everything changed across Colts Nation, especially for me. But yeah, it was just an absolute roller coaster of emotions. Starting off just feeling on top of the world, and then could not feel lower the moment that happened, and obviously never recovered after that point.
Yeah, momentum is a real thing, folks, especially in the game of football. And I just knew. I texted you right after. I was just like, "GG's, game's over." You just kind
Oh
of knew.
yeah, yeah.
Momentum shifts so
I've
easily.
seen enough Colts games in my life, and I know you have too. I've just seen it. It's the same song and dance, right? When something like that happens, it is so difficult to overcome. Just a gut punch, just
Yeah,
an absolute gut punch, and that's what I would describe it as.
and that picture is really going to be a defining moment in Ballard's tenure, in regards to what could have been, in regards to making the playoffs and beating the Denver Broncos, in Mile High Stadium, or what's going to happen now. I think there's a lot of uncertainty in the Colts organization today. In regards to everyone's, I think Fire Ballard right now is trending on Twitter. I used it this morning as well. Um,
You're like, I had to hop on, man.
I'm
I
guilty.
had to hop on the
Yep.
train.
Same with the hashtag like free AR. Like I was on that train too all the time,
Yeah.
every single day. Um, but it's the sense of uncertainty is it sucks. It sucks to feel this way because I feel like every single year we feel this way. Even last year, it was like last year was fine. It's AR got injured. It's like okay, this year will be his rebuilding year, whatnot. And then we were actually playing well. We're in the playoff hunts, and everyone's mind switch from okay, this is AR's rebuilding year to now he's benched, and now we're going all in, and now he's back in, and he's playing really well. And then Jonathan Taylor dropped the ball, and we lost this game, and it's just like a whirlwind of emotions that only Colts fans experience. I feel like if you're not a Colts fan, you don't really you don't really get the opportunity to experience what we've experienced the last 4 or 5 years. Actually, longer than that. Ballard's tenure, essentially eight
Yeah.
years.
It's been, I heard a stat on the radio earlier this morning, and I believe it is now I believe it's 10 years now since the Colts have hosted a home playoff game, which is crazy. I mean, that's a decade, man, that we're talking about, and that might not sound like a long time to other fan bases, like the Lions waited a long time for that, and maybe the Browns and some of those franchises, but for the Colts, I mean, we're talking about one of the greatest regular season teams of the 2000s, period. Like, that's not something that the Indianapolis Colts are used to, of just not hosting a home playoff game. And it is officially going to be 10 years of that happening. Ugh, it's a lot to handle on a Monday, but hey, we're here, man.
Wish we were celebrating Victory Monday, though. Man, it's just
Yeah.
how different could it have been? It sucks. Like, I woke up this morning and I was just like, shit, like, that was real. That really happened. Jonathan Taylor, one of our captains. And listen, Taylor spoke to the media after, the game ended, and his response was, it was a good response. He said the right things. And I will always appreciate Jonathan Taylor as a Colt. I think he's a phenomenal player, still leader on this team, but you can't do that. Like, in that circumstance,
Yeah.
you've never done it before in your life. And I still don't understand why it's 2024 and players are dropping the ball before the goal line. Like, just cross it, celebrate it after you're 5 yards into the end zone. Like, that should just be a thing at the end
And
of the
crazy
day.
enough, that was the second time that had happened across the league
The Bengals
yesterday.
earlier.
Yeah, there was a defensive player on the Bengals that did the same exact thing maybe a couple hours before. So
But it's funny because
it's
offensive
just
players should be more
insane.
disciplined. You feel like it's
I
like you
know,
touch the
yeah.
ball all the time versus defensive. Like, I get it. Like, you're in
Yeah.
the end zone, you're excited for your first, maybe
Ke-
first ever pick six. But like, Jonathan Taylor's
Ke-
ran the ball in so many times in 4 years.
Kevin Bowen talked about that on the 1070 the fan. He was saying Jonathan Taylor scored 50 plus touchdowns in college, 45 plus touchdowns in the NFL so far. It's like, this dude has been in the end zone. Like, he's not
Yes.
somebody that's not normalized to the end zone, right?
Yep.
He's been there, done that. So it was remarkable, 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 unbelievable, whatever other adjective you want to use,
Yeah.
insane to see. Yeah, one of the captains on your football team, probably your best, again, offensive player, and really one of the veterans on your football team, a guy that people and guys in the locker room look to, right?
Mhm.
Especially some of the rookies. So yeah, it was very, very frustrating. And going off that, I wanted to ask you, other than the obvious, right? Because we could beat a dead horse, no pun intended, into the ground all day and talk about how Jonathan Taylor's blunder basically lost the game. But what were some other areas when you were watching the game that you noticed? I don't know, maybe were turning points after that. Like, let's look post Jonathan
Yeah.
Taylor fumble.
Yeah. And once again, you can't say Jonathan Taylor fully lost us this game. At the end of the day, we still had a 6-point lead, and we still had to show up and make plays. But we were outscored 24-0 after that. So momentum is a real thing, folks. We talked about this a couple of minutes ago. But it just felt like the big guys that we paid didn't show up. And what I mean by that is Michael Pittman had a horrible fumble. Like, Anthony Richardson made a heroic play. He was running out to his right. Got the ball to Michael Pittman, and Michael Pittman, fumbled the ball. It was a great hit by the Broncos DB, but still, you got to hold on to the ball. Like, you're one of our highest paid. You're the highest paid wide receiver on our team, and you're a veteran. You've been a part of this league for 5-6 years now. Second thing I would say is just the entire offensive line, and I get it. We're starting 3 different offensive linemen. I was looking at the grades, the pass blocking and the run blocking grades. Mark Glowinski had a horrible session at right guard. Danny Pinter played awful, both in the 30s when it comes to ratings. It's just hard to win game. Matt Gonzalez played well. Bernard Ryman played well. Quentin Nelson played relatively well. But I just don't understand starting Danny Pinter when Tanner Bortolini was healthy. I would have still rolled with him because we've seen that he's looked pretty good, post or pre-concussion. And so I would have loved to still ride the hot hand with him instead of starting our third string center who played relatively well last game. But still, He's third on the depth chart for a reason, which is why
Yeah.
Tanner should have played, in my opinion. And third, just coming back to the wide receiver thing, is just why. Actually, I'm going to take a step away from that. I'm going to say Shane Steichen. That was some bad outside of the first couple of
That
the
was going to
drives,
be my next question for you, was how much of the blame that you'd put on
a
Shane
lot.
Steichen. Yeah.
At the end of the day, he's the head coach, right? And so with the head coach, he's also, he's not a CEO head coach. He's obviously the primary play caller for the Colts. I think it was a phenomenal first drive. They were doing everything from Anthony Richardson runs to throws, and Anthony Richardson was throwing on the money there. What happened? Like, why are we straying away from Anthony Richardson runs and easy outs and things of that nature? Just felt like, and I think the announcers even said it once, like it was like a 2nd and 10, and Anthony Richardson was being pressured because of our horrific offensive line play, and there were no routes that were easy for him to kind of check the ball down to. It was all down the field, and he couldn't do that. He took like a 1-yard sack, running out of bounds to the right. So it's like, you got to make it easy, and you did so well. Like the last couple of games, you did well on the first drive, and just to completely throw it all down the picture, like you can't just say it was Jonathan Taylor issue. He was the only guy that showed up outside of that fumble, I think, yesterday. So a lot of it has to be on Steichen, and then Anthony Richardson too. Like as much as we praise Anthony Richardson and hope he's the guy, and I still do think and hope and pray he's the guy, he missed some layups. He missed some throws. He had 2 bad picks. A lot can fall on Anthony Richardson's shoulders as well, even though he was playing hero ball because his surrounding cast just wasn't, there
He
for
did
him.
have a bad game. Yeah, I even told one of my friends in the group chat. I said they were saying, if people are going to look at the box score and say and start blaming Anthony Richardson, and it's like, hey, look, at the end of the day, Anthony Richardson is the quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts, and with being the quarterback, sometimes you got to take more responsibility, and you got to take a higher blame and higher percentage of the blame, rather.
I agree. He had
And
a bad
so
game, even
he
as
had a
someone
bad
that
game.
defends
Yeah,
him from box score watchers, but it was just a
exactly. Yeah.
relative bad game.
hmm
Yeah.
It was just a relatively bad game. And one thing that I thought about too, going off the Anthony Richardson point, is if you look at Colts teams in the past, right? Obviously, the easiest to look to is Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning. Obviously, I get it. 2 Hall of Fame talents. Obviously Andrew Luck retired early, so unfortunately he's not going to be a Hall of Famer, but would have been if he didn't retire. Um, those 2 quarterbacks, they elevated their team despite the rest of the team at times making huge mistakes, right? They helped the defense overcome some of the inability, right, on certain seasons. Even some of the skill positions, right? They elevated the skill positions around them. And so at the end of the day, sometimes when you look at Anthony Richardson, that is sometimes how we grade quarterbacks in the NFL, is like, can you be the one that elevates your team, that even when the rest of your team is having a bad game, even when Jonathan Taylor drops the ball at the 1-yard line before he goes in, to go up 20-7, can you overcome those mistakes and elevate your team and sort of, like you said, play that hero ball a little bit? Sometimes, unfortunately, like, because it's the NFL, that's how we're going to grade quarterbacks. So I
And that's, yeah.
understand there being some criticism on Richardson for that game, because it was the biggest game of his NFL career, and he fell short. He wasn't able to elevate his team's mistakes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But by no means does it fall squarely on his shoulders. You'll never catch me saying that,
Yeah.
because it was a disaster, kind of all the way around in the second half. So another area, like you said too, with the Steichen thing that I wanted to touch on, the other play, right, that everyone will be talking about, was the AD Mitchell trick play, right? And look, I understand it, I get it, but hear me out. At that point in the game, at that point in the season, it's the biggest game of the year. You have to win this game to continue to have a chance to go to the postseason, right? You still are in the game. You're down 13-17 despite repeatedly shooting yourself in the
Mm-hmm.
foot. I don't know if that was the best time to pull out the trickery, in my opinion. I just don't like. I don't hate the trickery. I don't hate the attempt at the play call. I just don't know if at that time and that point in the game that was the right call,
And it's
in my
funny
opinion.
because
But I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
he said he did it because he wanted to spark the offense. Like I get it, like he wanted to spark the offense, but at the same time, they just driven the ball 30 yards
I
down the
know.
field in like 3 plays. And the
Yeah.
offense was kind of rolling a little bit, and then to come out, put the ball in your rookie wide receiver's hands, who, by the way, I did not like his comments after the game regarding that play,
Well,
but to do
well,
that at that point,
who has dropped the ball repeatedly this season too? Like one
yep,
of his biggest problems, right, has been that he has dropped the ball. So you're gonna do like an insanely high risk, because that's not just a regular trick play. That has a lot of high risk. You have to have a lot of things happen, right? He has to catch the ball clean. AR has to throw him a clean ball. He has to throw AR a clean ball back. AR has to catch the ball clean. Like that's a
yep,
lot of elements of that trick play to happen. And I just don't know if the payoff at that point in the game, like I said, was worth it in my opinion. Like
yeah.
it was a little questionable for me.
And it's like Adonai Mitchell, we love you. We still think you're going to develop into hopefully a good wide receiver here. It's only your rookie year, but it seems like every time you get thrown the ball, something bad happens. Like nothing good happens
Yeah.
on most occasions. And then secondly, he caught the ball and then he turned it around to make sure the laces were right, and
He
then
like
he threw it.
looked at it. I saw him like literally like look down, look at it, turn it. He's like, all
Yeah,
right, got it. All right.
it's like no shit. Benito turned into Ed Reed. Like you gave him like 3 seconds to be able to make a fucking decision, like an NFL player. And then Bernard
Well,
Ryman just stood there like. He just stood there like,
yeah.
oh shit, I'm gonna just let Nick
I'll,
Benito, the best pass rusher, one of the
yeah.
best pass rushers in the league, just like
Who we
pass me.
highlighted time and time again on the episode prior, right? Like we talked about him just praising him. We talked about him being so good. And of course he's the guy that comes up with the play to basically put the nail in the Colts
Yes.
coffin. I mean, holy hell, man.
I just don't understand that. Your offense didn't need sparking in that moment. In that game, it needed sparking at certain sparks at certain points.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That second half was brutal, but you were driving down the
Yeah.
field, 30 yards, 3 plays, 4
You,
plays, like it was
you know
moving.
what sparks your offense, to your point? Yeah, drive down the field and score a touchdown, man. You don't need to have a trick play and outwit the defense. It's like
Yes.
just drive down the field and show the Broncos at that point in the game that, hey, look, we made a grave mistake, but this is still a team. We're still an offense that can drive down the field. They've been a second half team most of the year. They've been effective moving the ball in the fourth quarter in a lot of these recent games. So it's like just move down the field and get a field goal or a touchdown, man. And
Yep.
like you're in the game and you're back in the driver's seat. So yeah,
These
that was definitely another moment that was a huge head scratcher for me. It was just unbelievable.
Unfortunately, Logan, these moments kind of share with you like what kind of team do you have? And unfortunately, through 15 games, 15 weeks of the season, we kind of noticed the Colts are a team that are going to typically beat bad teams, and they're a
Yep.
team that's going to get killed by their own mistakes when it comes to playing actual good football teams. And we see it
Yeah.
time and time again, year after year. I don't know if it's a culture thing, if it's an organizational thing. I thought bringing in Steichen would completely change it all, but it seems like Colts always shit on bad teams, but then lose by their own mistakes, by their own
Yeah.
fault. Just stupid plays, stupid holding penalties, stupid roughing the fucking punt returner when he's 3 yards out of bounds. Like just stupid play calls, dropping the ball 1 yard before the end zone. It's like this is what the Colts have turned into. And it's sad to see as folks like us, you and I have watched the Colts, how they used to be with Peyton Manning, how they used to be with Andrew Luck, #1 overall picks that came in. They didn't need help. They just made it work.
Yeah, you just elevate the team around you. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And it's different because Anthony
Yeah,
Richardson's obviously like he's taken 4 overall, but he's a third QB
yeah.
taken. Project
Way more
quarterback, wasn't
raw.
expected to
Yeah.
do that. Exactly. Wasn't expected to do that, but we are putting this on the shoulders. But when, Logan, do
Yeah.
you think, I want to ask you this, when did you think, because I think me and you, before the season started, we talked about, hey, maybe this season is more of a, let's develop Anthony Richardson. It's essentially his rookie year. We don't really know if we're going to make the playoffs or not. Like, we don't really know what that's going to look like.
It's a good point. Yeah.
When did the season turn from that to, fuck, we fucked up making the playoffs, fire Ballard, fire Steichen, kick AR out of the building? Like, when did it turn into that? Because I thought we all mutually agree, like, this was a let's develop AR kind of season.
I think I think naturally, unfortunately, with it being the National Football League, it's such a results driven league, man, and a what have you done for me lately type of league, as you and I know have been watching ball for many years now. And I think when the Colts started, showing signs of a little bit of life, and Anthony Richardson week one throwing one of the best passes I've ever seen in NFL history, right, to Alec
Yeah.
Pierce. It's like you can't not get excited about that. And I think there were, like, he showed these flashes, right? AR showed these flashes that they could be a team that could compete. And then when people saw how bad, I will say this, I think this is when it turned. When people saw how bad the AFC South was this year and how much
Mm,
Houston was struggling, because I get that Houston's 9-5, man, but man, oh man, they do not look like a 9-5 football
they're not a
team.
9-5
And the
team.
Colts should have and could have, I will say, won both of those games against Houston. They had a legitimate chance to win both of those games against Houston. So you're talking about, instead of the Texans being 9-5, them being what, 7-8 or whatever, or 7-7, and then the Colts potentially reversing it, and the Colts being 9-5, or 9-6. So, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that's where it turned for people, is just seeing the combination of how bad the AFC South was this year, and then salivating over some of the just insane plays that Anthony Richardson was able to put together. But I agree with you. If we look at it as a whole, we can't be too upset, because at the end of the day, yes, it was supposed to be a development year. I think he did show some things that should give us reason to
But he
be
still needs to work
excited,
on a
hopefully,
lot.
for the future. But he has to work on a lot, yeah. And I
I,
think that's another thing too, is he did. I don't know if he took enough of a step forward for Colts fans to be like, "Oh my gosh, like, we are set, like, we are going to be fine for 10 years." I think he still needs a little bit of fine tuning on some of those the easier
this
throws and some of the mechanics
this
and stuff.
offense, or sorry, this offseason is going to be key because you're not, hopefully
Yeah.
not going to be injured. You're going to stay healthy. I want to see what a whole healthy offseason looks like if you're working out, and getting some reps in, and understanding the playbook a little bit deeper. And then I want to see you come out next year and drastically improve, because we are still full believers in Anthony Richardson. We want him to be our franchise quarterback. But year three, we're coming in on year three.
Yeah.
It's time to take the, put the pedal to the metal, take the next step, and prove to us, hey, you are going to be our franchise quarterback moving forward. And there's a lot of signs, like we see a lot of good signs, but then we see a lot of ugly, and we need to find a way to kind of negate some of that ugly and turn some of those upsides into on a more consistent basis. That's when we
Yeah.
can see some of that Josh Allen-esque. Not saying you're going to be Josh Allen, but that's, if you can be like 3/4 of Josh Allen, like that's a franchise quarterback in this
Yeah.
league. One thing too, Logan, I want to talk to you about. Me and you both, fire Ballard train. I think we can mutually agree on that.
Dude, we're on the same wavelength. I was actually going to ask you. I was going to kind of go into next, like, for the last
Yeah.
segment. Yeah, what are we feeling, man? Like, what are we feeling about Ballard? Where do we think with Steichen?
So
Give me
yeah.
give me your thoughts.
So for me, I want to, it's tough because if you fire a GM, typically arranged marriages don't work, right? So you can't bring in a new GM and retain the same head coach and the same quarterback.
Mm,
However, I think this should be a little bit different, because you have an outlier QB already, right? We're all expecting his outlier QB to work out. Why can't we expect this outlier to work out? Meaning bringing in a new GM and pairing him with an old, the old head coach that's there, and then the old quarterback that got drafted by that head coach and the previous GM. Now, I want Ballard gone as much as anyone, as much as you, as much as most hashtag fire Ballard haters on Twitter are like. But I saw this tweet by C. Lou, and I have it up right now. He said, "Damn, I just remembered Ballard signed an extension through 2026. No way Irsay is paying 3 head coaches and 2 GMs. LMFAO. Reich is still on the books till 2026. Then you would have to pay Shane till 2030 and the new head coach, plus Ballard and whoever the new GM is. Yeah, Ballard ain't going nowhere." Bunch of laughing emojis. right? I feel like Jim Irsay is not gonna do that. Like it sucks, dude. It fucking sucks because we're gonna have that stupid that postseason conference. I could have done more. Then we're gonna have that preseason conference.
I just
Look, we were
I
9-8.
just wish that I could do nothing, absolutely nothing at my job, Addy, and get paid so much money. Like, wouldn't that be an amazing life to have, just to do nothing?
Listen, we're both
To
in
like,
sales. Imagine we never hit quota. Imagine we were in this role. We've never won an
oh my
AFC championship
God,
or whatever is equivalent to that
yeah,
in X amount of years. Haven't made the playoffs more than one time. Would we retain our job?
no,
And we wouldn't fucking be
we
paid
wouldn't.
for it either.
We wouldn't
Like,
last even more than a year. Not
yes,
even a year. It's crazy.
exactly. 8 years.
Ugh,
8 years of this bullshit.
I'm telling you. It's like
Crazy.
it's the lack of accountability that just kills me as a fan. Like, they always preach in the Colts locker room, accountability, accountability. It's like, this has been the absolute opposite of accountability this season, man. I mean, there's just no other way to put it.
Yep.
Period. There's no accountability from the leaders on up, even from Steichen. Honestly, I really haven't been a massive fan of Steichen's comments post game and just saying, oh, sometimes those things happen. No, you got to immediately say, hey, that is absolutely unacceptable. Jonathan Taylor is one of the leaders on our team. He knows better than that, and he's apologized, and it's not going to happen again. And it was a crucial moment or something like that, right? But he's just, oh no, mistakes happen. Mistakes happen. It's like, my brother, and he hasn't ever done that in his entire career, dating all the way back to high school. What do you mean mistakes happen? It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. For me, man, I agree with you. I agree with that tweet, and I get it that Irsay probably won't do that, but man, oh man, does it need to happen. I just don't see a culture change on this Colts team until Ballard is gone. I would be okay with Steichen sticking around for one more year because I do like the fact that there's some consistency there with him and AR. You always want consistency when it comes to developing a franchise quarterback. You don't want them to go through, 2, 3, 4 different head coaches, right? In their rookie contract.
Like the
But
Bears.
exactly, yeah, we see what's happening over there. So I don't know, man. For me, it's like, I don't think that Ballard has much to do with Anthony Richardson's growth or development, right? Like, Ballard is responsible for running the team
Yeah.
in the day to day and finding new talent to put around him. And guess what? He hasn't done that. He hasn't done that. He hasn't fulfilled his duties
We
as
like our
a general manager.
guys.
We like our guys. All right, Chris.
All right, Chris.
All right.
One thing though, Logan, I
Yeah.
want to say, I know we're gonna hop off soon, folks that are listening. I know there was not a lot of we didn't spend a lot of time on a lot of the great stuff that happened yesterday because there wasn't a lot of that. But I just want to give our flowers. Shout out to the defensive side of the ball. Shout out Gus Bradley. You guys did your thing yesterday. You made a rookie quarterback look like a rookie quarterback, which we haven't seen you do. Was that or Bo Nix really just isn't a good reader of defenses, and the Broncos really don't have their guy. I don't know what it looks like. But Bo Nix, and we talked about this a couple episodes ago. You're just like, why are Colts always on the bad side of stats? Like, they're always on the negative side of like shitty stats. Right. Here's a stat for you. I think the Colts held Bo Nix in that offense to less than 200 yards and 3 turnovers and still lost that game. And I think it was the first time it ever happened in NFL history.
They held them, or I think they beat them in almost every major statistical category besides the scoreboard, bro. It's like, it's crazy.
There it is.
Absolutely crazy.
There it is. There it is, folks. Well, folks, do you have anything else you want to add, Logan?
No, yeah. Shout out, like I said, shout out defense. Great job, guys. Chris Ballard, man, I really hope you're not here next year, man. No hard feelings, but you're not doing your job, and we need to get this thing turned around. I personally don't even want to talk about the playoffs right now and the fact that they're technically not eliminated. I'm not even gonna consider it until I see it. I'm
the
done.
only way
I'm not talking about playoffs no more.
The only way the Colts have a chance, Colts fans, to make the playoffs is the Chargers have to lose 2 out of the next 3. That is and you have to win out. Colts have to win 3 out of 3. Chargers have to lose 2 out of 3, and so I don't think so.
At this point, Addy, I don't even fully have confidence that the Colts will win out. I'll be honest. I
That's fair.
see a game in there. I see a stinker game in there, one of the three. But yeah, we'll definitely highlight Titans versus Colts this coming Sunday on Thursday's pod. It is in Lucas Oil Stadium, so hopefully they can beat up on Will Levis or maybe Mason
Mason
Rudolph at
Rudolph.
quarterback. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, anyways, Colts fans, thanks for sitting through the pain with us yesterday and then sitting with us again today. We appreciate it. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe on all socials. We're on TikTok. YouTube, obviously, is where we post the entire episode, and then Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Twitter, Instagram, you name it. We're everywhere. We're looking to continue to grow. So come join us in the fastest growing Colts podcast in Colts history. No, I'm just playing. Appreciate you guys. Have a good one, and we'll catch you all on Thursday. Take care.